I bought one of Courtney Daniels' movies just to support, and it was, I think, something like, it was $4.99 or $5.99 or something really affordable. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, let's just own it and not worry, quote unquote, own it. Let's just own it digitally rather than rent it for $3.99, or I could own it for $2 more. And I'm like, yeah, let's just own the dumb thing and let's do that.
Maybe that's the good segue to listers, is that would be the perfect, like, if listers was available for like $1.99,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they probably would have made, I don't know. That's maybe that's the question that we'll discuss, but
right.
I'm curious if it wasn't
Yeah.
free, would it be as popular as it is?
Right.
Well, we're going to discuss that, and we're going to discuss what some of the repercussions and what they're sort of fighting since they put it exclusively on YouTube, and how the industry and some of the gatekeepers are struggling with their own internal rules of what that means. And what they can classify it as, what they can define that as. So on that note, let's get started, guys.
Let's do it.
A lister is an extreme bird watcher who lists all the birds they see, usually in a single year. And when they get especially obsessed, they will divide their lists into where they saw each bird. So all the birds in a specific subregion of Georgia, for example. And then they can list the same birds by trying to spot them in subregions of other states and countries to boot. Brothers Quentin and Owen Reiser learned of the existence of extreme bird watching in 2023 when Quentin, while high, discovered a bird field guide in their family home, and then decided, you know, the best way to learn about something was to do it at, quote, the highest level, unquote. In birdwatching, the highest level would be a big year, where you try to officially spot as many birds as possible in a single year. And the most competitive place to attempt this was the lower 48, aka the mainland United States. The score to beat at the time of their big year was 751 birds. Now, the average experience of the kind of person who would compete in a big year is someone who had already been birding for 24 years. The Reiser brothers started that very year and decided to live out of their car, travel the entirety of the lower 48, and learn all they could about the sport of extreme birdwatching. Quentin said, quote, the whole thing kind of started as a joke, but we fell in love with birds and bird watching. It is a lifelong passion now, unquote. On January 1st, 2024, the brothers hopped in their 2010 Kia Sedona minivan and left their Collinsville home to track birds in every region of the U.S. By the year's end, they had logged 38,757 miles with a $16,000 budget from savings and Patreon donations. The pair spent their evenings in public parks and so many Crackle Barrel parking lots. They estimate that they ate approximately 400 cans of tuna. Now, most big year competitors spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in a single big year. They did it on 16,000. They then compiled their experiences, the birds they saw, the birds they didn't see, interviews with other bird watchers they met, and the controversies of the bird watching communities, and put it all together into the beautifully shot, surprisingly entertaining documentary, Listers, a glimpse into extreme bird watching, which they posted exclusively on YouTube for free viewing. The doc received 1.3 million views its first month on YouTube. They have since fielded offers from producers interested in bringing the film to Netflix, HBO, or Amazon, but they weren't and aren't interested in selling it at this time. Owen Reiser said, it's not a good deal for the filmmaker. If, from the get-go, it's a commission project, it can be a good deal. It's flattering for sure, but hopefully we can leverage that into the next project, unquote. Having the documentary available for free on YouTube has other benefits. It makes it accessible to everyone. Quentin said, quote, it's been kind of shocking and overwhelming that so many people from outside the birding world have enjoyed this film. One of the best things is when people reach out and they say, I've never had any interest in birds at all, but I just downloaded the Merlin app. Or, I just got binoculars. That's been crazy to see, and it's actually getting people into bird watching, unquote. Quentin and Owen have also published a field guide of their journey and the birds they saw along the way. This equally irreverent, funny, and beautifully illustrated guide, with a slightly not safe for work cover, is available from Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Now, writing for Slate, birder Nicholas Lund called the documentary, quote, the most talked about birding movie in ages, unquote, and compared the film style to the gonzo journalism of Hunter S. Thompson and internet creator Andrew Callaghan. Tyler Austin Harper of The Atlantic praised the wildlife photography and called it, quote, one of the funniest documentaries I've seen in some time, unquote. Harper also stated that beneath the film's stoner facade, it does have a stoner facade, Quentin is constantly stoned, both of them are constantly stoned, it contained a serious message about the negative impacts of social apps like eBird on hobbyists. And Listers is the independent documentary sensation that we are here to talk about today with a very special guest from the indie film world. We will introduce him and get this combo started right after our intro. We shall be right back.
Are you not entertained?
Yes, sir! We'll have a real good time!
He's Dave, and I'm Dallas. And this is Vintertainment. We have opinions on just about everything. Sometimes those opinions are spot on. Sometimes they go down easier with a glass of wine. This is Vintertainment, the wine and entertainment pairing podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Vintertainment. This is the podcast where we pair wine with entertainment. It's as simple as that. And today we have a very special guest, the one, but not the only, because his kind of non-dependent, or nandi, get it? Non-dependent instead of independent. We're going to talk about that in just a moment, because his kind of non-dependent filmmaker is having a bit of a renaissance right now. This is the one, but not the only, Avi Setton.
That's right.
Avi has a BFA in film and television production from New York University's Tisch School of the Arts, with a minor in philosophy and an MA in English at Lehigh University. All completely fucking useless. Good job, Avi. He has since worked as a filmmaker and product manager at Google, taught documentary filmmaking to graduate students at Lehigh University, taught screenwriting at SOCAPA, the Los Angeles Teen Summer Arts Camp. He worked as a story logger on a reality TV show, worked as an editor, script supervisor, and assistant cameraman on films, TV shows, and commercials, among other freelance industry jobs. And he now has his debut feature film completed and currently being submitted to festivals, The Big Break, which you can follow at Avi's Substack newsletter, also called The Big Break, and can be found at Nandi Uprising, that is Nonde, just like non-dependent, short for non-dependent, nandiuprising.substack.com and thebigbreakfilm.com. Now, what exactly is Nandi? Let's talk about that. But Avi, welcome to Vintertainment. How you doing this afternoon? And are you ready to talk about Nandi movies and wine?
I'm ready. Thank you so much for having me, Dave. Thanks, Dallas.
Of course.
Happy to be here.
Sweet. Awesome. So, Dallas.
Yeah, so again, this is the first time Avi and I are meeting face to face. I'm very familiar with the legend and have been following him for a while. But we are curious here, Avi, what actually brought you to Substack and now Filmstack, and how do you personally, for the people listening, define the non-D movement? But let's start how you got to Substack. Start with how you got to Substack and Filmstack first.
Yeah, so I filmed a movie about a little over a year and a half ago, which is The Big Break. Production was August 2024, September, August. Yeah. So the way that it was a 20-year project in a lot of ways,
Right.
in the sense that I wanted to make a movie for 20 years.
Yeah.
And finally just got around to like, fuck it, I'm going to make it. It's just something that I need to do. I knew my wife was pregnant, and a lot of it was just like, this is something
Now or never.
Now or never. I want this part of my life. I want my son to know this part of my life, like the part that wanted to be a filmmaker his whole life. So
yeah,
it was just very important for me to make a movie. And I didn't really think much beyond that. And
No one
after
ever does.
Right, exactly.
And
Especially when you have no
because
budget.
then you won't do it. Then you won't do it. Like, don't think beyond that. Because if you knew how hard it would be, how much effort, how much work,
never do it.
But I'll be clear in that, like, my entire crew was my wife and my brother-in-law. Neither had ever worked on a film set. They never stepped foot on a film set before. They were on entire crew. 2 of my 4 actors had never acted before. Like, this was just. Luckily, I had my own equipment, so we got an Airbnb for a week, and it could not be a scrappier production.
Yeah.
But after we filmed it, I was like, holy shit, this is genuinely, like, I love it. It was really special. I really felt like the movie needed a life, and it was far better than I expected it to be. So
you were genuinely proud of the outcome.
Yeah, it actually exceeded what I expected it to be, which, like, never happens in life. Maybe like twice in my life, I've set out to do something and I've actually exceeded my expectations. So I was like, what I was familiar with, like, what you do with an indie film 10, 15, 20 years ago. You go to you submit to Sundance. And I'm like, but this isn't like a Sundance movie. And then there's Slam Dance. I'm like, I don't even know if it's a Slam Dance movie. So I was like, are festivals even a thing?
And I'm out of options.
Yeah, it's like I was starting to question the whole, like, distribution ecosystem. I was like, what do you do today? So long story short is, I think it was probably on Reddit, I started seeing, like, Ted Hope's articles, basically.
Yes.
Shout out to Ted Hope, of course.
Ted Hope. Mega producer, old school indie producer who's produced over 100 films, 150 films, something of that nature.
Probably,
and he's kind of spearheaded what we're about to talk about with the whole Nandi thing. But keep going, Avi.
And he's 100% the reason how I ended up on Substack, because I was reading his writing and I was like, oh, this is exactly like the stuff I am, that's speaking to me and what my situation is with my film. So I started reading more and more of his stuff. I was like, okay, I'm going to make an account on Substack and really, like, this seems to be the right place to be. And my account has gone through many iterations, but I think it started as The Big Break. Well,
you've only met us in the latest iteration, but this is like our 3rd iteration as well in the last, like, 2 years. So yeah.
But my original account wasn't even my name. It was like, I haven't had social media since, like, the original Facebook. So it was like my wife was basically running the Substack, and I was like, oh, this isn't really like a social media where you promote. So I was like, I guess I have to, like, really embrace my personality. So I eventually have my own account, and that's how I ended up on Substack.
Okay, good.
Basically Ted Hope.
All right.
He'll do it every time.
And for you personally, when you found Ted Hope and you started to understand what he wound up coining the Nandi movement, how do you define the Nandi movement for our listeners?
So I don't know if this is, like, I probably don't have the same opinion that I think most people do. I think Charlotte Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
She wrote something I thought was very.
She has been a guest on the pod. Everyone, go check out our episode on "You Hurt My Feelings."
You Hurt My Feelings. Yes.
Oh, I have to see that. That episode. She's a very important voice, I think, in the movement. And there was, like, somebody who I won't mention, like, was criticizing the movement and was saying, like, that this is, like, don't drink the Kool-Aid of Nandi.
Yeah.
And her response to it, I thought, was the most, like, this is exactly how I feel, which is that non-dependent in and of itself does not exist. And Charlotte, if you're listening to this, sorry if I'm butchering what you said, I apologize. But to summarize, it was, like, basically what I think she was trying to say, that, like, non-dependence in and of itself it's not a real thing. But I think that part of it, a lot of people might push back against, and that might be, like, a sort of a comment that would be provocative in the community. But I think it's true. I in many ways, I just see it as, like, sort of a rebranding of indie, just because the word has lost its meaning.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do, actually. In the conversations we've had, a lot of people.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So I get that. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, I mean, that's really. I think that's really how I see it. I sometimes feel like I am butting heads with people when I say that, because I think people really want this to be its own movement, but I think it's just indie film. Like you talk to somebody who's not in the film community and you ask them like, what independent films do you like? What have you seen? It's changed so drastically from what it used to be 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that it's just the word indie has lost all meaning. And so I think it's fair and appropriate that a new term comes along and sort of helps bolster this. And the only other thing I'll add is that I do think like hardware is getting cheaper and cheaper. And anytime that happens, you know, you get French New Wave, you get, you know, the digital revolution in the late 90s, early 2000s. Like there's always a revolution that comes when hardware becomes more accessible.
When new groups have access to actually do the thing, when, you know, so you've democratized something that has allowed that new voice, that new perspective to suddenly flood the market is a too extreme a word, but they can actually put some product out there and that people will notice, will see, and it will be visible. And then that can cause a stir of some kind.
Transform the market, I would say.
I think
if
the other thing,
there you go.
I think the other thing that the non-D movement kind of has sort of shown us is that the idea of the gatekeeper, right, which we've sort of built our entire, you know, industry on, is no longer really a thing, and that really attracts people. It's like, you know, because prior to this, it's you find the studio, you find the producers, and you work the chain, and you sort of follow all those steps that everyone else follows, and to varying degrees of success. But because of that, and the fact that the barrier of entry with tech is, you know, so much lower, people are just sort of drawn to this movement. And, you know, but I do agree, it's sort of an outcrop of the indie movement, at least, again, in the conversations I've had. People have difficulty believing that the non-D movement is its own specific thing.
Which to Avi's point, it's kind of a rebranding, right? So like there's definitely, in the Venn diagram, there's crossover. Absolutely. There's no question. 100%. Like probably a lot of crossover, but it's just like, what's your mindset? How are you approaching your independent film or your independent endeavors? And one thing that occurred to me recently, we just had the other day our first like work in progress film screening at a wine bar. So like a filmmaker came and like showed like to a group. We had about 15 people that showed up. We had 25 registered, 15 actually showed up. And to like watch this work in progress, like sound wasn't finished. It was like it was not a locked edit, no picture lock whatsoever. She's like, no, this is so for the feedback kind of a thing. And it was at a wine bar that had given us the space for free, that we could do this screening. And then there was a slight push, I remember originally, where she was like, can we get like sponsorship for like free wine at the thing? And I was like, well, you know, they're already giving us the space for free. I wouldn't, like, people don't have to buy wine. Like, they can show up and just drink the water. That's fine. You know, speaking of drinking the Kool-Aid, drink the water, don't drink the Kool-Aid, don't drink the wine. But then if you want wine, you can, you know, we can patronize the shop. And one of the things that I've been thinking in my head is, you know, when we are broke independent artists, and, you know, we're trying to stretch everything as much as we possibly can. We might be okay financially, maybe, but you can't just dump that into a film. Like, you're okay financially to pay your bills, right? And to like pay your mortgage, pay your rent, whatever it is, pay your car insurance. And then you're kind of like, and that's about it. I'm doing okay there, but I don't have a ton of disposable income. But we sometimes get trapped, I think, in the old school independent mindset where it's like everything's going to be handed to us, right? And so I think the main distinction in my head between non-D and indie is, you know, someone who is given everything for free and doesn't have to give anything back in return. What's the definition of that? It's a dependent. Yeah. Right? And so you have to, if you're a dependent, you will be dependent on the venues, on the distributors, on the whatever it is, that because you're not, you might have made the film, but then if they're just giving you everything on a silver platter, it's like, okay, you don't have any power in that relationship. You have no stake. You don't have, we're going to talk about listers here in a moment, but you release something free on YouTube and make your own millions of viewers and fan base and followers. You can now turn down the offers to take your thing to Netflix, to Amazon, and you're like, maybe the next one, but not this one.
Well, I think this is the key to all of this, and I like what Dallas was touching on too is, and I think it's a appropriate pushback that non-dependent is like, it's different. And the micro budget aspect of it is enormous because you really don't need to depend on anyone up until distribution. And,
Right.
and this is where I think we haven't quite solved it. And maybe when distribution is solved, even if it's free on YouTube, YouTube is owned by Google. I mean, you are dependent on YouTube. If distribution is solved in a non-dependent manner, then I think I could fairly say that this is no longer a rebranding and actually like its own new way of release. But distribution is a beast that nobody can quite figure out yet.
No. Outside of, again, self-release in some way, shape, or form, but you still depend on the platform of YouTube, or, the platform has to exist. Someone had to create it and make it something that you could then use in some way or another. And then even that comes with its drawbacks, which we'll talk about here when we get to listers properly. But on that note, you've already talked a little bit about your big break feature film, Avi, but when you went about filming it, you had a crew that had never stepped foot on a set before. You had a cast. I believe there was only one trained professional actor, correct?
Yeah.
And the rest were, go ahead.
So I wrote the script very much like knowing how I was going to film it, who was going to be in it, knowing that I could do it in one location with the equipment that I had, with a crew that I could train. So I wrote all of the roles for specific people. Now only one of them actually ended up acting in the film. So originally there's 4 characters. One of them is AI, and I did not originally know it was going to be played by a human. But Tim, a friend of mine, like former colleague who's an AI engineer, I talked to him for advice, and like over a series of conversations, he was like, just get a human actor. And then I was thinking, I was like, it should be you. You're perfect. And he said, yes. I have no idea why, but he absolutely kills it in the movie. So he took on that role. A friend of mine that I wrote the role of Doug for took that role. I had originally written the role of Travis for another friend, but he was unable to do it. So I had Trevor, who had a little bit of acting experience, is a friend of a friend, and they both lived in New York. So I had him like basically meet the guy who I wrote the role for, and like shadow him.
Smart.
Nice.
And then
Express character study. Very nice.
Yeah. And then the lead role, Charlie, I knew I needed like a professional actor to like hold the fort. And so Luke Scholl, who has that role, I knew him like 15, 20 years ago from like when I was a student, like when I made a student film that he acted in. And I had seen him over the years. Like he's in a bunch of college humor videos, or Funny or Die. Like you might recognize him if you see him. Absolutely hilarious guy. And I was like, I reached out to him. He was living in Atlanta, and he's like the one professional actor that stars in the movie.
All right. Well, real quick, give us, if you can, just some energy behind the big break. A log line, some taglines, the energy, the inertia, the genre. What you got?
Tragic comedy is how I describe it. It's about a man who is married to his AI partner, and his roommate invites a social media addicted friend to stay at the house. So it's really about 2 people who are attached to their phones in completely different ways.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
And the big break, is that referencing like trying to break away from the phone?
Break the addiction, or?
It has multi-meanings.
I got it. Yeah. Right. I figure. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Especially
all right. Cool. So, and last thing, you were talking about how you didn't think this was for Sundance, maybe not even for Slamdance. So what is at this place where the movie is? Because it's picture locked now, correct?
Yes. We spent, the post-production experience was very, very different than production. Production was 6 days. Post-production was a year and a half. So,
Right. Yeah.
I've had to find people who were willing to work for equity for the most part. we just got a colorist and a sound mixer who's doing it for free because he liked the cut. So a lot of this was just like getting people excited about it. So it took a lot of time. But what was your question?
So the question was, what are your hopes at this point?
Oh,
what for the immediate near-ish future? What are your hopes for it?
It's a really hard question to answer. Where it's like I really profoundly believe in this movie. Like with all of my, like, I've devoted my life to this now, or at least I am going to, and until I see whether or not this can be a career for me or not. That's something I hadn't considered for the past decade, that this was even remotely possible. How that plays out, I really don't know. And that goes back to the question of distribution. I don't, right now I'm entering it into festivals. The film's picture and sound locked. It's going to be completely finished by April 11th. It's just being color graded and sound mixed right now.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying festivals. I'm a little critical of, I think we made a really, really weird movie, but in a good way. And so I hope that festivals can see that and that it could go, it can have somewhat of a traditional path, but I also will fight for it if it doesn't. And I'll try to do some sort of self-distribution and try to seek out venues like what you went to yesterday, what Jake's doing in LA, and these sort of micro cinemas. Like that could be the answer. I don't really know.
Right.
Absolutely.
Maybe like some kind of a theater tour, whether it's through micro cinemas, which are much more affordable, maybe even a couple big theaters here and there. We shall see. But yeah. Kind of the Hundreds of Beavers approach, which is always the go-to example these days. Yeah.
And in all fairness, I think it has that appeal. I think it's a movie, and why I might be like, if it has an appeal.
Sounds
I think,
so topical. It's ridiculous.
We filmed it almost 2 years ago. This is before AI took off. Like it was we were ahead of ourselves. And it was like, I would describe it as like a little bit, as taking place a little bit in the future and at the present day at the same time. That was my original descriptor, but that no longer applies because it's now completely the present day. But to the Hundreds of Beavers point is that those filmmakers fought for that movie because they knew it played well with crowds.
Yes.
I think The Big Break will play well with crowds. And so it's very important for me to find a way to get it to crowds. Yeah.
And I can see, like, I remember when I watched Hundreds of Beavers, I just watched it at home for the first time when I finally got to see it. And I was shocked how long it was. Like, it's a pretty epically long, but I think that would be one of the things, like Hundreds of Beavers in general, I'd be like, this is pretty charming. I can imagine a lot of people wanting to pick it up, but I guarantee you they would have been like, we are shaving 30 minutes off this film. Like if they had gotten normal distribution. And I'm sure they were like, we worked way too hard on every minute of this goddamn visual. Everything is such a visual and physical humor masterpiece on a shoestring budget. And I'm just sort of like, I can see why they're like, we are not getting rid of 30 minutes of this, of our lives that, we put so much effort into. And once you get into the groove of the movie, even though it's long, you're like, you can't believe it's still going because every minute is packed with so much. It's kind of overwhelming, but it's all worth watching, So yeah.
And I don't know how you describe that type of film, but I also watched it by myself. It's like,
live action's Looney Tunes is how you describe that kind of film. It is pure.
The quality of it playing well for crowds. It's not a movie I would want to watch again by myself, but I would absolutely love to watch it with a crowd.
Maybe it's interesting. I would.
Yeah.
But I watched it by myself the first time. So I didn't have the crowd experience to then be like, oh, but I'd missed that, which of course you always do if you have that crowd experience. Yeah. But it is, I think it's a movie I can just marvel over every time I watch it in just the sheer ingenuity of every frame.
It does have that collegial kind of shared experience quality. You're like, Avi, like, so I totally get what you're saying. It's fantastic on its own, but with the group, like it just resonates.
It does elevate it,
more,
no question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which is a quality that's becoming more and more rare as streaming takes over. So I think that's part of what works in its favor.
The hope of something we can bring back at least a little bit.
I think people are
and
clamoring
preserve.
for it again too, for that very reason. You know, people are looking for those experiences again. So, yeah,
for less than $100, right? I mean, that's kind of the thing. Is like we've been priced out of being able to partake of it very often, and as time goes on, and the prices just keep rising, and of course, then they just keep premiumization. They keep premiumizing. Is that a word? It's not a word. It's a word now. Premiumizing, like, because like now we're going to IMAX and 3D it and this and that, and the ticket price will just go up and up and up because fewer and fewer of you are coming. But as the prices keep going up and up, fewer and fewer continue to show up, or we do it so much more infrequently that that's sort of the cycle we're stuck in right now, where you can only do it twice a year because it's so expensive, and yet it's that exact cost that makes us do it less and less and less, I think. And
I would take a step further to say, like, it's those types of films are spectacle films.
Yes.
The IMAX, Vista Vision,
yes.
Hundreds of Beavers is not really a spectacle film. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's like there's something communal about it that isn't spectacle driven, and that I think is the future of whatever will be successful in a theatrical venue.
Yeah,
I agree with you in general, though I would slightly add it is a spectacle in a way, because it's such physical, visual, but you're seeing it as like these are like a small handful of people that for very little resources manage to accomplish this. And the fact that it is as much pure spectacle as it is kind of great.
That's fair.
Can you guys hear the honking bloody car in the background? Bloody hell. Bloody hell. We're doing this in the middle of the day in Los Angeles. You could, son of a gun. Anyway. All right. So on that note, one last question for you, Avi, before we get started on our film of the day. What's your relationship with wine? Because that's the other half of this podcast. And we have had an ongoing conversation on Discord where I've helped you to expand your palate a little bit with a certain, like you kept asking questions and being like, be my personal sommelier and do this for me in Discord. And especially regarding like dessert wines, sweet wines, I got you to try a few that you never had before. But what got you into wine in the first place? Because you were already interested in it and a little bit into it before I ever started talking to you. And how would you define your level of wine nerdery?
Yeah, well, first off, you probably have had the most like impact on my wine tasting. So it's not that I'm like...
Don't tell him that, Avi. He'll be insufferable behind the scenes for the next week.
But yeah, I by no means am like, you know, I never would have considered myself a wine connoisseur. I've always had like a curious palate. So, you know, when I get to try anything, food, wine, something that like really challenges my palate, I get very excited. And so you definitely did that. But you'll see when I picked the bottle that I chose for the movie, I really started with wine in college. I didn't really drink in high school, but there was I went to NYU and I was at 3rd Avenue and 14th Street was the dorm, and there's a wine store. I think it's like 2nd Avenue and 11th. So it's just like a few blocks, and they didn't card. It was one of the few. Everyone in NYU knew like who doesn't card. Yeah. It was a very small wine store, so it was like. That's where I started to experiment, because like, you know, anything that was like under like $20, I was like starting to experiment with, and I discovered a little bit through that, basically just like guess and check. And then I had a friend, my friend Sava. He was an assistant winemaker at a winery in Hudson Valley. Okay, yeah. And I would say, is the one who like. He's one of my best friends, and like he really started introducing me to like Brunello and Gruner.
Guttliner.
Yeah, I know I'm going to butcher the name, the Haruxtaxali.
Yeah, beats me.
I don't know how to say it.
I think I can picture. I know what you're talking about, but yeah.
Yeah, he would just recommend bottles to me, and that then I started like, you know, getting into wine through him, and then the next person to give me wine advice was you.
Yeah. I've helped him put together at least 2 cases from wine.com orders.
Yes.
And kind of piece them together with some new things. He's like, I like A, B, and C. What else should I try? And I'm like, well, let me roll up my sleeves.
You've been spot on so far. I still have not tried the. I have a few bottles that I ordered that I haven't tried yet.
Yeah.
So I haven't been drinking much lately, but the 6
That makes one of
Petanios.
us. Yeah.
I go through phases, but
Yeah,
it's there waiting for me. I'm very excited to try the 6 Petanios because that 5 was like truly one of the most interesting tastes I've ever had, like ever in my life.
Well, on that note, speaking of Tokai Azu 6 Petanios, it's time for our wine trivia question of the week. And we're going to see if Avi can answer this. Dallas, you can feel free to help him if you like, because I did not reveal the answer to either of these two. So between the two of you, see if you can get this right. But one of the wines, obviously, me and Avi bonded over, was I got him to try a luscious dessert wine, Tokai Azu, from Hungary. It comes in both a 5 Petanios and a 6 Petanios. That's a level of sweetness in the wine. It used to come in a 3 and 4 Petanios. Nowadays, under 5, they just call it a late harvest, and they changed the rules of Tokai. So it's only 5 and 6 Petanios, and if you go below that, you're technically not an Azu anymore. You're not sweet enough to be an Azu at that point. But what is the primary grape used to make Tokai Azu? Is it A, Tokai, B, Azu, C, Saperavi, or D, Ferment? That is once again for our listeners and for Avi and Dallas. A, Tokai,
What are you
B,
thinking, Avi?
Azu, C, Saperavi, and D, Ferment.
The Saperavi is suspect, so I think
Yes,
since it has my
yes.
name in it, it's not Tokai. It's not Tokai, I don't think, because that's the region.
Right.
So it's either Azu or Ferment.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ferment I know is
Okay.
a type of wine, I believe, but
You want to help him drill down between Azu and Ferment there, Dallas?
I'm going to say your last statement, maybe backtrack from that a little.
so Ferment is the grape.
Mm.
It's, I guess I'm gonna guess Ferment. I don't know what Azu means, but I'm assuming it means some kind of
Go with ferment.
All right.
It's Ferment.
They're going with D, Ferment, and the answer is D, Ferment.
That's
Woo!
right.
You got it right. That is the name of the grape, correct? And so Ferment wine is just made with the Ferment grape in Hungary, and Tokai is the place that the Azu is made. And Azu is they're called Azu berries because Azu means dried, and so they're raisined grapes when you do an Azu. So it is the Ferment, and there are a couple other grapes that they use to make Tokai Azu, but Ferment is always number one. There's the most Ferment in there, and there's a few other grapes in there. Harsh Levelu is another one, the second most used one. Saperavi is a red grape that is
a real grape.
Georgian.
Oh.
Yeah.
Georgian grape.
So Saperavi is a real grape.
Georgian grape.
Yes, Georgian red grape to make very bold red wine in Georgia. So we'll get you to try Saperavi with your name in it one of these
That's
days.
right.
You'll have to find that
It means super
online.com.
Avi. No, it doesn't.
Right. And then the Petonios that you get, if you get 5 Petonios, that means Petonios is like a bucket. And it's how many buckets of Azu berries you add to the wine of the dried versions, because that's what makes it sweet. And then you have a base wine that is completely dry of ferment. And then how many Petonios of the dried Azu berries are you adding to make it sweeter and sweeter and sweeter? And so 6 Petonios is 6 Petonios of those motherfuckers. 5 is only 5, and so on and so forth.
6
so
buckets of
good
grape.
job. You got it right. Ferment for the Tokai
He
Azu.
did. Congrats to Avi, guys. He will probably feature at some point at the end of this season. We're probably going to compile all of our trivia questions and do a master quiz. I'm just saying that now. It'll probably be a lot of work, but Avi's answer will definitely feature in that. All right, now, Avi, on to business here. Please tell our listeners what movie you've chosen to talk about today, and most importantly, why.
I chose have to remember the subtitle. An extreme. It's called Listers. An extreme glimpse into birdwatching.
Yes, a glimpse into extreme birdwatching.
A glimpse into extreme birdwatching. Okay. And I chose it because I think it's one of I think it's a movie that filmmakers, especially those in like the non-D ecosystem, should be talking about more. I heard about it maybe 6 months ago, and I heard about it from multiple people, none of them whom had any involvement in film, were filmmakers or anything like that. And then eventually I did start seeing it, some talk of it in the film community, but I'm sort of still astounded that this is pretty much like the most non-D film I can think of that I've seen in the last couple years.
Yes.
And it's predominantly been championed by non-filmmakers. And I don't know what that means, but to me that
it means it's on YouTube. That's what it means.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem. So I
agree.
I tried to, I want to champion this film because I think if the non-D film community really wants, to take off, they need to be championing films that film fans like, not just filmmakers.
Yes.
And that are trying new forms of distribution that are uncommon for a true blue feature film, right?
Yes. And it's a film that appeals to like, I can't tell you like the variety of people I've heard about it from. Just friends who have, no interest, like, hey, have you seen this doc? It's had such a wide appeal. And it's a missed opportunity, in my opinion. I think filmmakers should be championing it more. The film community.
Right.
Maybe they've caught up now, but 6 months ago they were not.
Yeah.
I don't think they've caught up entirely. So one of the things that kind of blew my mind when preparing for this podcast is, are you on Letterboxd, Avi?
I'm not. No,
you're
I
not. Okay. You should be. It's helpful again, reaching those film fans, not just filmmakers, right?
Cinephiles. Yeah.
Yes. And one of the things, so Listers is not on Letterboxd at all. And you can't get it on Letterboxd. I tried. I know how the way you get something listed on Letterboxd is there's another database, the movie database. So TMDB, not IMDb.
TMDB, yeah.
Right. And anyone can make an account and you list a movie, but they have rules for what you can list, and they go through review and they will reject what you try to post there if, there's a reason to. And their rule right now, which I do not think makes a ton of sense. You can kind of see why, because they don't do TV, right? So they're like, they don't want music videos. They don't want miniseries or TV shows listed. It is just for movies. Letterboxd is purely for feature films, right? And they don't want content videos, like content creators doing videos. So once upon a time, you can understand why these rules made sense. But then with Listers, I've already appealed that, and people have already, I had to look up Reddit threads because I tried to list it on and it was rejected, like soundly. They're like, no, this breaks our guidelines for posting anything. And I'm like, and then I read their guidelines, and they're like, nothing from like content creators on YouTube do not count. And I was like, right, but this is a actual documentary that these guys aren't content creators. They have posted nothing else on YouTube, right? Yeah. It's like they've done a trailer, they've done a teaser, and they've done this feature film.
The feature, yeah.
And that is it. You're right. There's nothing else that these guys have posted.
Yeah. That's wild. Like
yes,
I forget the name of the documentary, but there was a documentary about the war in Ukraine that was released straight to YouTube. I almost certainly can guarantee that would be on Letterboxd.
Maybe not. It probably will not be if it's exclusively on YouTube.
Maybe it played festivals first. Yeah.
Maybe it played festivals first. But the thing that I did write back to them, and I was like, guys, this is why it doesn't make sense. If someone self-distributed it on Amazon Prime, it would count.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So it's only because they're only on YouTube and they're not anywhere else that they will not count it for that reason. So Avi, quick question for you. Do you want to start a petition to see if we can get this motherfucker listed on
Yes.
Letterboxd? Let's do it.
You heard it here
I-
first. We're starting today.
100%. But also it points to like, this is probably why I'm not on Letterboxd is I know it's the app to go to for like just discovery.
And in Letterboxd defense, the users really want this to be listed there. Like pun intended. Like they are absolutely like I found out through another Letterboxd person who posted somewhere, and he's like, this is why listers will never be posted here, and it's a problem. And they're not happy about it. So the users want it. It's just the gatekeepers, as there always are some.
So
and they're always very slow to change. Yeah.
So here's my question. What does, similar to what's happened with Substack and now that there's Filmstack, what does the non-D alternative to Letterboxd look like? Where these films that are sort of outside the realm kind of could exist, because Letterboxd isn't hosting them.
I'm gonna push back on that even thought. I don't think there should be an alternative to Letterboxd. I think Letterboxd should simply be, if you are a feature film, you are feature film length, you have been made as a feature film, like that is something. I just think their rules need to catch up with the modern moment. And
sometimes the
not take
rules
5
change when there's
years to do it.
competition. That's my angle. So, but I get what you're saying.
But the competition starting from scratch. I mean, this is a bit of the problem with. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on this, but even when we talk about distribution, one of the biggest problems is they're like, someone create a platform, and it's like,
Right.
okay,
Right.
but then no one's using the fucking platform because it's a new platform. Like, what does that really do? And people are looking for that solution, but I feel like starting from scratch, we really have to ask ourselves how, but even if someone creates that platform, what is that path forward and how do we do it? But go ahead, Avi, you were about to say something.
Yeah.
I was going to just simply say that I think discovery is, when we were talking about distribution earlier as being like the sort of quintessential issue for non-D films, discovery might be the right behind it.
Right.
Right.
And in all fairness, I don't have a Letterboxd account. I've gone on it, and I can say as like a non-user, it's just the same 10 movies that are in the theaters, and it's review after review. It's like 20 reviews about Black Phone 2. Like that was the last time I looked at it. It was like, I don't care about this movie. So that's as like a guess. But then there's like, I have to sign in again? There's the long form writing barrier. I know you don't have to leave like long reviews.
Yeah,
but you have to follow the right.
The current thing, like the younger generations, the millennials and the Gen Zers are like one-line reviews is the thing to do. Something pithy, snarky. Sometimes even they'll give it 4.5 stars out of 5, but then still leave something pithy and snarky. And the Gen Xers hate it. They're like, oh my God, they're like, what? Write a real review. Blah, blah. So there's a bit of a war going on.
They're still searching for Siskel and
those two
Ebert.
things. Kind of. But then I will also say that I use Letterboxd, like, yes, just like on Substack. When F1 comes out, everyone writes a fucking F1 review.
Yeah.
And you're like, guys, what are we doing here? Why? Because everyone wants to be a part of the cultural conversation and so on and so forth. And I have had conversations with users on Letterboxd where I'm like, if you don't want, especially if it's like a Netflix original, I'm like, viewing it is your vote for more of it.
Don't do it.
Like, that's it. It's done. Netflix doesn't give a shit if you liked it or not. Like, at all. They're like, yeah, but you watched it. And if we make the sequel, you're going to watch that too,
Absolutely.
Aren't you? And you know what? The answer is yes. And I've tried to explain to people that your eyeball, especially if it's a free stream or like a subscription streaming platform, your view is the vote that you're like, they're going to make another one. And they're like, they don't buy it as an argument. And I'm like, oh, guys, you're killing me.
That's kind of my issue. Is like I go on Tubi or I go on Amazon Prime and I see 100 movies I have never heard of, and they all came out last year. And I just like, I want somebody to like help me navigate
curate
that.
it for you. Yeah.
And
so
it exists.
I will say
in other
Letterboxd
mediums.
is good at that. And I know you're only looking at it from the out, like, because you're not a user. When you become a user, the thing is you start following people, and Letterboxd starts feeding you what they're actually reviewing. And you wind up following the kinds of people that you want to follow, that are going to watch. They're going to throw in some mainstream. I mean, everyone should keep some degree of mainstream fare in there, and be aware of what's going on in the mainstream. But Letterboxd has the crazy part about listers not being listed there is everything is on Letterboxd. The dirt cheapiest unknown Filipino movie from the 60s and the 70s is on there. Every softcore porn movie that you have never heard of is fucking on there. Everything is the indiest thing that you're like, it might have no reviews, but it's on there. And like someone bothered to list it. And the best part is it's also very democratic in terms of like, I can go and list, there have been a few films, independent films that I wanted to do a like mini collabs with, and like me and two other users are going to watch it the same week and all post reviews, and it didn't exist on Letterboxd. And I've gone to list it, and within 48 hours it is listed on Letterboxd, and it's there to stay. And then we write the first reviews and away we go. And it's a wonderful platform in that regard. Listers is the first time I've ever run afoul of them being like, this cannot be listed here. And it kind of blew my mind. But then I realized I've almost never come across anything that was only listed on YouTube.
Right.
But that is a bit of a problem in terms of like the moment that we're in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know we're about to put the big break on Letterboxd, so I will have to join it. So I'm gonna give it a chance.
Yes.
And you're probably right. It's probably a lot better than. But you know, I've pointed this out many times before. But like, I'm not a huge gamer, but having worked in tech, I've just become very familiar with Steam. And you know, every once in a while I go in there and I'll just like look at like what's new and trending. And it's, you know, every week there's like 5 games by like single developers or super tiny studios, and they're right on the front page. And I don't, maybe Letterboxd has that, but with the amount of films that are coming out, there really should be a better way to navigate.
There should be something that's more like, because right now Letterboxd is like, what's trending is always going to be on the front page, and what's trending will always be something big because it's the only thing that gets enough, like that many eyeballs in sheer numbers and sheer quantity. But then you have like, well, what are the people you following most interested in this week? And that winds up being a much different story than just the main trending thing. So a lot of it gets personalized for you in that regard. But then the main trending things are, unless something has to be exploding in the culture in some way, shape, or form for Letterboxd to put it up there and have it not be personalized for you.
Yeah, that's I don't know how tangential this is, but like there's a huge backlash right now to Spotify for music discovery.
Yes.
Some of the really cool things coming out of it is there's now an app where you can like tune into like any radio station anywhere in the world.
There are a couple. By the way, I have a few recommendations. There's this great one, which is this interactive overlay with the satellites, and you can just pop in. It's fantastic.
Yes, I think that's
fantastic. It almost feels like an analog experience in the early days of streaming music. But sorry, go ahead.
That's what we need that's exactly. I think we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
But there's another one that's like you can listen to whatever a stranger's listening to.
Right.
Like I think it's actually not the people. My friends tell me what to watch. I want to hear from some stranger. I want to watch something totally new.
Precisely.
Right.
Yeah.
Something that wasn't on your radar at all until it was like pure happenstance, pure randomness.
Anti-algorithm.
Anti-algorithm. There you go.
Or it's funny because this is something, this is my own pet peeve with people when it comes to algorithms, right? The algorithm is you.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately at the end of the day. And I've been using Spotify to my advantage in terms of discovering new music that I would never hear of. But that means you have to go out of your way. Because once you start going out of your way to listen to something, you're like, I don't know what the fuck this is. But you know what? Yeah. I'm going to, especially once I see that like the band has 12K followers, right? Something small for Spotify. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't like it, but I'm going to play it.
Yeah.
And Spotify has been like, oh, you like indie shit? Great. Here's a whole bunch more. And I'm like, yay, this is exactly what I wanted.
You see, I do slightly the opposite. Whenever there's a Spotify recommendation, I immediately reject it at any time, so that it continues to just populate and try and guess and do extremes. Now that's an interesting sort of search habit for me.
I think you have to do both, right? Because you also, even the indie, like it's going to be a specific slice of indie, and if you stop there, it's going to funnel that exhaustively at you and nothing else. And so algorithms suck because once they think they've got you,
absolutely,
they don't change.
You have to keep them on
without
their toes.
You. Right. You've got to go out of your way to constantly be poking at things,
antagonize,
and then the algorithm just keeps jumping around with you. But that's the point. The algorithm is you, and if you are passive, the algorithm is passive and it does no work for you. And if you're doing a little bit of work, the algorithm accentuates it. Like it what's the word I'm looking for? It powers that work that you're doing. So
I think I'm somewhere in the middle. When Spotify started, like Discover Weekly, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm discovering so much new. Yeah, the first few years was fantastic. And now I don't even bother to look at it. But I've discovered new ways of finding music. I would actually say Substack has been one of the best platforms for that. Now I see people's top, people who love music the way I love film are posting their favorite albums of the year. And that's become, something I wouldn't have had access to, which is just people who love this medium telling me what their favorite things are. And maybe arguably Letterboxd has that. I just think there are too many films that are good that are not being talked about. And Lister's really, really like Lister's is just the prime example. It's the prime example.
Yeah,
I agree.
All right.
And so on that note, we're going to start a petition, guys. By the time this show goes live, you will have a link down below. You can sign that petition, say get listers on Letterboxd. That's going to be a petition for the movie database to change their rules, bend their rules, like bring it up to date for the modern world. Us and Avi, we are going to put that together. And by the time this goes live, you will have that in the description of this episode down below. Please click that and help listers out. Let's get it listed on Letterboxd. Let's show that we can do it. Now, normally, let's start talking about the movie proper. Now, normally we would break a film down into 3 acts and discuss each act separately. But I got to tell you, Listers as a documentary and a mostly non-narrative doc at that, it follows them for a year. But I really tried to break this down into acts. And I was like, this does not quite lend itself to that structure without just putting like literally just walking you through every single scene and every single like person that they interview and whatnot. So instead, let's have a more open, slightly guided conversation, but open about Listers. It's about these 2 brothers doing their first big year, trying to get as many birds as they can, trying to beat the 751 record. So Avi, what are our initial thoughts while watching this doc? That's where we always start. You brought this to us. When you watched this doc, yes, you thought it was important for what it was, and you were weirded out that film people were not talking about it. But when you watched the doc, how did it hit you? What were your initial thoughts on Listers as a documentary?
I'll use a descriptor that I think isn't used enough or isn't used properly, and that's that the movie was fun. And this also taps into Hundreds of Beavers a little bit. I think people really need to differentiate fun and funny. And yes, something can be, the movie's both fun and funny, but fun is a different type of experience. And a lot of my favorite films, going back to French New Wave, these are movies that are fun, playful. And I hadn't seen a movie like that. No, I think we've been slowly drifting away from movies that are fun. And this movie I can't think of a better descriptor. It's just fun. The whole movie's just so much fun. So yeah, that's what I walked away. And again, with like the sort of all of the filmmakers that we know for the most part are the same filmmakers. I don't know. I'm about to be 40. So for me, it was like, it's the same filmmakers 20 years ago, Tarantino, Nolan, Kevin Smith, like it's all the same filmmakers. Where are the new emerging? And then you look at like Sean Baker, he's like in his 50s. Like, where are the 20-year-old filmmakers that there used to be? And so that was another thing. It was just like nice to hear and see a young voice emerging.
Yes.
I miss that. Yeah.
Just kind of jumping into the pool and throwing the gauntlet down on that. Yeah. And I will say I agree with the fun versus funny thing. Like, there are funny moments, but yeah, these two guys, they don't take it too seriously. I mean, that's the thing. Like, bird watching was not a passion before they started this. They just got the idea. They're like, what would it be like if we just tried this? If we just jumped in and did it? Yeah. And then they went into this world that takes itself, I come from the wine world, so I recognize this instantly, like a world that is like so deeply obsessed. And they even recognize how deeply obsessed they are. Like, there's kind of that interesting dichotomy where the world is like, we're silly how obsessed we are, but we're also totally fucking serious. We can see how silly it is, while nevertheless that does not decrease the seriousness of how we feel about our bird watching. And watching the two brothers ever so slightly, like, they never slide completely into seriousness, but even in their own words, they're like, we got into it. Well, we were taking it more and more serious as we went. Yeah, Dallas.
I think they sort of touch on a bit of the obsessive madness that surprised even them. That was what's most fun and endearing about this sort of pairing, is they were totally shocked and surprised at how easily they sort of fell into this sort of micro obsession, right? And that was very interesting, and it even sort of reminded me of you spoke of the fun of this film, Avi. It reminded me of the film Sideways in a weird way, in a non-scripted sort of that duo who sort of ends up bumbling into sort of some sort of madness with this sort of obsession and this goal and it was kind of fascinating to see these two just roll into this micro obsession. You're right, it was a fun film. It was a buddy comedy. It was in its own little way, because seeing these guys sort of build rafts in a marsh, and it just narrated, and it was just so, I wanted to be there with them. And that is so rare for a documentary for someone like me, because I'm really jaded about everything. But I really wanted to just be like the third guy, sort of like, oh, this is hilarious, Anyway.
In our recent double coverage of Alabama Solution and Perfect Neighbor documentaries for the Oscars week, like he was very cynical about the fact that he's like, they make these and we just forget about them. And I'm like, whoa. I had so much more optimism of how important the stories were and blah, blah, blah.
That's not to say they aren't important. It's just, our collective sort of memory to digest and
shrug.
Sit with
our collective shrug.
Yeah. I need to listen to that episode, but The Perfect Neighbors might actually have been my favorite film of last year alone.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was very well done. Very well done.
Have you seen Alabama Solution, by the way?
I have not. I'll check it out.
Okay. Yeah. HBO Max is where you got to find it. Yeah.
I'll watch it tonight.
Beautiful.
But you tapped into it. All right. So I've talked to a lot of people who walk away from this movie. They're like, oh, I got into bird watching. I didn't have that experience at all. I mean, I pay a little bit more attention, but that was not my experience. My experience actually is very, I don't know if this is kind of what you were touching on, both you guys. It's such an amazing study of any hobby. From somebody entering it.
Yes.
Like they go through the this is, let's just see how, do this for the fun of it. Yeah. Then
we're doing it, but this is kind of dumb, right? Or it's kind of so. Look at these obsessives,
right? Cynically,
yeah. I'm young, stoned, stupid. I'm just gonna do this for the hell of it, and then they actually start falling in love with it, and that's beautiful.
Well, and then they're like, wait, I can recognize these 3 different bird calls. I know what I'm hearing, and they're almost like.
It's immersion. You know what it is? It's immersion. When my nieces are now learning Spanish, they've got this sort of Spanish immersion sort of class, and it literally is they just drop them into 6 hours a day of Spanish, and they hate it on one end, but at the end of the day, they're walking out of it understanding really so much more than everyone else.
And when you do it from an older age, I think it takes you by surprise that you learn it, right? Where you start to be like, oh wait, we have this mastery we weren't necessarily trying for. we weren't taking it that seriously. And then, but once you realize you can start to recognize bird calls, you're like, oh, I'm good at this.
You're like, oh no, I've unlocked, I've unlocked a superpower here.
And now you start to slide into, because now a little bit of your ego's involved. Now a little bit of your self-worth is involved.
You want to showcase it. Absolutely.
Right.
And then you start to like immerse yourself in the hobby.
Right.
And which is what they do. And there's like a point where they get upset that they find themselves getting upset at the fact that like they can't find a bird.
Yes.
And that's when it really starts to like show the toxicity of this culture.
Obsessiveness, obsessiveness. And that's not actually a good thing, really deep down, right? Yeah.
And it's like that Listeners is the perfect title because it's like that's the bad side of this hobby.
And that's it's like and that's why I mentioned that sort of descent into sort of, micro madness, because, they do realize in, this sort of in the middle of this hobby that they really are upset that they're upset. And that realization in real time is just fantastic to watch.
Right. And how serious they're taking everything when that both was and what that was the point. They're like, let's do this for real. But there's a part of you that's like, there's no way. We're not going to really fall. But that's the whole going down, like whether it's again bird watching or wine. I love that we're going to do a wine pairing with this because the wine world is so similar. It's ridiculous. or it's the rabbit hole. Yeah, the film world too. Right. You go so far down, but one of the things, Avi,
when do you lose the fun? Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Right. When do you lose the fun? And then also, when do you become a little too one note in yourself as a person because you're obsessed about one thing only? And one of the things that I appreciated you mentioned about me in your recent, like all the people I have found on Substack that like I appreciate. And you said, Dave Baxter, you're like, this entertainment thing reminded you to have more than one passion.
Yes.
That it's okay to have more than one passion. And I was like, yes, because whether it's filmmaking or whether it's the wine world, I'm like, guys, more than one, like sometimes also talk about something else and care about something else. And your life and your purpose doesn't have to be defined by this. And your online presence, right? Your online presence shouldn't just be, we're so into this branding element of online personality culture where it's like, you have to be the thing. Right. And that's who you are online.
The thing, the expert, the whatever. Yeah.
And that's what makes us less than a real full human being is we just become the thing that can be taken apart, that can be attacked, that can be laughed at, that can be agreed with, that can be supported. Whatever it is, it's just the one thing rather than being a full-fleshed human. And you watch, I was actually kind of happy when the older couple that held the record of the 751 birds at the beginning of the documentary. And then we find out he also got into laser light shows.
And by the way, the husband is definitely the villain for that arc. He is.
Yes.
He had to take down everyone he came across. It's fantastic.
Yeah. But it was great because he would go down every competitive rabbit hole. He was sort of like, and in fact, the only reason he had to not do everyone is because you could tell the wife was like, no, two. You get two. And then it's like our life has to be calmer after your two obsessions. But he was willing to take on as many as he could. That's its own kind of beast. But I was like, oh, good. Someone who's more than just a birder. He's like, oh no, I do this with lots of things.
But again, it's what you were talking about, Avi. It clearly this guy just has a competitive spirit, and every hobby he touches, he has to excel at, to the detriment of, it sounds like, many of his relationships, except the wife.
Obsessiveness in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's a wonderful thing to fall in love with something, and I think he even says it, like it's the competitive part. That's the part that like really sort of darkens the whole like that
very true
that beauty.
The green-eyed monster when it comes in, the jealousy, where it's like you've got to like, but other people can't be better than you or do it better or do it more, and that's where it's like, okay, become obsessed, but do it for the fun of it, do it for the love of the thing, not the accomplishment above what other people are accomplishing per se.
And there's so many characters that the film just like shows that aspect so well. It's like they just flat out ask one of the guys like, would you be doing this if the app didn't exist?
Right.
If
If you couldn't
no.
list.
Right.
And he's like, no. Yeah.
It's like, okay, so like,
Right. I mean,
what?
at least he was aware. At least he was self-aware enough that, I mean, he didn't hesitate. They were like, would you do it if you couldn't do this as a competition? I mean, instantly he was like, no. He's like, this is so much work. This is so much effort. Why the fuck would I do it if I couldn't win?
And that raises another point of the old world, old way of doing things versus the new way of doing things, which Dave and I talk about pretty often in terms of wine, and also we're now talking about with the Nandi movement and distribution of old cinema. But because there's that character who used to hold the record, the two guys, and the young kid was now sort of encroaching on their record. And the caveat was that, well, it's a new game because every year they just keep adding new potential birds to the list. And it was such
the technology.
Exactly. And so that was definitely a turning point, an interesting character sort of relationship between that sort of new world and old world birding, because my uncle's very deep into the Boy Scout world, and as a child we often did this sort of excursions and whatnot, and you had your little birding book, and you learn to recognize the patterns and all that, and now as a kid, if I have an app to go out and just detect the bird calls, I'm not remembering any of the bird calls. I'm not committing anything to memory. And two, it's just a hell of a lot easier. So, back to our conversation about tech lowering the bar with film. Yeah, it kind of does with this too. But in terms of the documentary, fantastic note. Love this. I love this movie. Like, really love this movie.
Yeah. I mean, everyone who watches it does. They're a winsome duo, our lead guys, and then everyone we meet is a character by nature, by dint of being an extreme bird watcher. Who the fuck isn't going to be a character that does extreme bird watching? Although maybe they edited out some people they talked to who are boring. Who knows? It is a documentary. They probably tried to keep it kind of entertaining. Now, the doc does often raise the question, speaking of obsessiveness and whatnot, though, it does raise the question of our fascination with nature or our obsession with anything, and how that leads to behavior that threatens the very thing we love, right? So we're spending massive amounts of money, burning crazy amounts of gasoline, driving around and traveling through these venues, being present in numbers in places where we're not necessarily meant to be, where nature is a bit more preserved, but we're just stomping through trying to take a fucking picture of as many birds as we can. So what are our thoughts on obsession is good, but where is that line where it tips into like you're harming the very thing you care about because it's all about you doing it? There's the girl who constantly mentions that. Right. She's like, she questions it. She's very interestingly, she's like, I can't stop, but I do wonder how bad this is, and it's funny. She's self-reflective enough to notice that she can't quite bring herself to not do it, but at the same time, she's already having that crisis of, am I part of the problem with, has this become a problem? Avi, you want to kick us off?
I was just going to say, she has one of the best lines where it's like, none of this is actually helping the birds.
Right.
This is just about and even though she's like, well, if you do this, you make it about you, not the bird. But then like, as the doc goes on, near the end, she starts to be like, maybe all of this has nothing to do with the birds, right? It's like, we only know to go see these birds because we've already cataloged them. We already know they exist. We're not doing science here. We're not putting it down in the journal for the first time. We're just coming in the wake of scientists and dragging on their coattails and trying to take our own bloody pictures and sightings of these birds. And is that helping anything? Or how much are we part of the problem there and whatnot?
I think that they do a great job of mentioning, I think it was in Act 1, the two older gentlemen who were speaking discussed purchasing, I'm going to get the number wrong, either 2,500 or 25,000 acres and turning it into a preserve.
Right.
And, there's that sort of conservationist sort of core or baseline, which I think this doc is sort of built upon. We don't necessarily touch a whole lot on it, but I do think at the core of this, I'm not sure if the filmmakers are really interested in the conservationist sort of perspective, but it's clearly in the minds of people who are in this film and birders and bird watchers. But then what ends up happening, it seems, is that competitive thing just takes over and begins to run the show. And I wonder if that then becomes secondary to, the conservationist aspect becomes secondary to just the competitive aspect of this, which it seems it does. I don't know.
I mean, I think they did a good job at like touching on conservationism. Like there's the part you talk about. They also talk about like how some birds are just harder to find because of like developing neighborhoods and just like industrialization. Like if we wouldn't be talking about this if this was a documentary about bird conservation. Like it just wouldn't be entertaining.
Absolutely.
So they did it like the right amount. I personally think, and I feel like that the intention there comes through. But
I agree. When even as a documentary, as something you would want to watch, it's the gamification of bird watching that makes you start to watch it in the first. They're like, we're going to try and do a big year, and the number to beat is blank. That's how it starts. Yeah. Right. It's like they know what the hook is, even for the viewer of the documentary, and from there they can explore what they want to. But it's like they had to rope us in with that initial gamification, that competition.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. There's a moment where, as someone who just made a film about phone addiction or technology addiction, I think this is where I start to get empathetic for these characters, which I think is really amazing, that you can empathize with the sort of villainous characters. There's a moment where he shows like a redacted email, or the filmmaker shows a redacted email from somebody who says they were suicidal and this whole bird watching thing was like, and then it immediately cuts to the guy who has like a tattoo, and he's like, like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like it's changed my life. And so you just get the two sides. Yeah.
Right.
And
two extremes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they cut together very well, and it's done like very poignantly. But where does it go south? Clearly this is, for some people, this hobby that is like truly giving them joy in life. And then for other people, they go down this path that's like just a path of depression. And like, where does that start? I imagine technology plays some role here.
Yeah. And are we talking about bird watching? Are we talking about wine? Or are we talking about filmmaking?
Right. Yes, exactly. That's what makes the movie so good.
It is, and perfect for this podcast. So did this convince any of us to take up bird watching?
Well, funnily enough, this weekend I was on the Channel Islands, and the Channel Islands is its own little sort of micro ecosystem in that it has a species of fox which only exists on the island, and it's a diminutive fox, and it only gets about the size of a house cat. They have no fear of humans, so they will walk up to you, crawl up your leg to grab something out of your hand. And it also has a very specific species of scrub jay, which is about, I think, 30% larger than it is found anywhere else. And the entire Channel Islands, if you guys are not familiar, are off the coast of Santa Barbara and Ventura, and it's now a national park. And it is a place where conservationists, birders, bird watchers come, and it's sort of nirvana for many of them, because it's a place where these sort of species can only be found. It is extraordinarily remote, even though it's only an hour and a half off the coast of LA or California. So I spent a lot of time with my cameras out on the birds this week, and they are also very aggressive towards humans. They will attack you.
Okay.
They also have a species of raven, which they behave in pairs. One will when you leave your bag, it will unzip your bag, and a second will fly into your bag and steal your keys.
Whatever
They're
you got.
really interested in
keys. Shiny.
So yeah,
Shiny,
so
jingly, shiny.
So there's so many cars that have been left on the coast of Ventura at the dock because the keys were stolen by ravens on the island. So yeah, I am not necessarily a birder at heart, but I get it. I totally 100. I also understand that competitive thing because I can see that being engaged in myself. Like, yeah, that would be a problem. So I get it.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So favorite human in the documentary, which character?
Oh God.
For me, it's gonna be the girl. I liked her the best because she kept questioning everything while still being completely committed. And I thought that she was the most balanced and healthy-minded.
She was the voice of reason. She was the voice of reason.
While still being obsessed, while still being properly obsessed. So I was like, okay.
She was questioning her obsession.
Hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
Definitely
about you
the most
two?
likable.
Yeah.
Any different takes?
Favorite human.
I could give what I think is the most interesting character.
Okay.
Maybe not as likable, but I think I'm most fascinated by it was the guy who was obsessed with like putting everything in the app. I don't remember his name, but he went to like
the one who did pigeons and whatnot.
Yes, and there's a scene where
also did the sub-regions. Like he was like, but I haven't seen that bird here.
And there's this scene where they go to a cemetery and he's like, I haven't found this bird in this county.
Yeah,
he'd already seen the bird hundreds of times, but he had to log it in that county, and apparently was at that cemetery. It's like that. Yeah, that was fascinating to me.
I'd say my two finishers for a favorite human are, and they only appeared very briefly. One was the guy in the wheelchair who was like, please help me and, get me out of the mud, but also don't tell my wife. That was fascinating. That was fantastic. And there was a point when our two leads were using the app to play the call of one of the birds. Yeah. And it ended up calling another birder who they had not seen. Because and they were wondering, like, I wonder if this guy is going to make a note in his app of his notebook of seen or heard only, because that's a designation. I heard the call of a bird, I did not put eyes on it. Right. And that made me think how many times people have been in the wild in the last 10 years and have heard the call of these birds.
Just been the app.
It was just the app.
Yeah,
that's fascinating. Yeah. So, those are my two. Yeah.
One other character that's
go ahead.
more likable than the one I said was the other homeless guy that they run into.
Oh, the Australian guy. Yeah.
The one on the bike, right? And then they brought him in to have dinner at a diner and whatnot because he was like, I haven't eaten. He's like, I'm sleeping on the street. I haven't eaten. He's like, I'm literally doing this with no money. They were doing it for $16,000, which they thought was cheap. And this guy was like, I'm literally doing this penniless.
He was living that life without the film behind it. It was just fascinating. He was very likable.
I agree. Yeah. All right. Favorite bird in the film. Does anyone remember their favorite bird?
Actually, mine is I don't remember the name at the moment, but it's the one that the guy in the wheelchair showed them with the red copper breast. I don't remember.
Okay.
The name. Yeah, that was beautiful. That was a beautiful bird.
Mine was the scissor tail. I believe it was the scissor tail swallow. I could be wrong, but when that tail came out and they're like, it's a proper pair of scissors. And I was like, oh yeah, that thing's awesome. And yeah, you saw him you see this is a true blue nature documentary too, guys. Like the bird photography is amazing.
Yeah. Yes.
And they name every bird and they show it to you. In clear in as much clarity as some birds are like literally very hidden and they're like, well, we kind of caught it on camera, but most of them you see clear as a bell in slow-mo photography, and it's gorgeous to behold. Avi, you might not have prepared for this question, but can you think of any favorite bird?
The sun's like hitting me, so I apologize for my
no worries.
Adjusting. I don't remember the names very well. There was the one that like they were looking for that randomly showed up when they woke up that morning.
The three-toed.
Yeah.
Three-toed woodpecker.
Just that narrative arc, at least, I loved.
That was great.
And I'll go like kind of maybe it's boring, but to sort of emphasize the beautiful photography are just the flamingos.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it was at the very end. There's like a scene where they just they give up on their like competitive nature
Just
of
enjoy
the whole
it.
experience, and they
Right.
just go on a boat and just go look at flamingos.
Yeah.
And it's a very rewarding, and they just have these beautiful shots of like flamingos. And I feel like
Yeah.
at that point, you kind of like
Right.
you kind
Even
of
they say at one point the photos they're getting, the video they're getting, they're like, are you kidding me? Because
Yeah.
it's just so but they're just talking about how beautiful it is and what they're getting. Yeah. All right. Now let's wrap this up. We got to reveal what we paired with listers. Now, did all the birds influence what we decided to pair with it or not? It definitely did for me. But you know what? Avi, kick us off here. What did you decide to pair with listers and why? You're our special guest, so you get to go first.
So I went with something that's personal to me. So I was telling you like how I discovered wine when I was like 18 as a freshman in college. And there was a bottle that I discovered I loved that I just kept going back to. And it just became like the bottle that I drank. And it's, for me, this is just like college, and it represents the mentality of this movie so much. I will say though, I asked my friend Sava to give recommendations. And he was like, choose an orange wine with a twist off cap. And I was like, that's pretty good.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
It's like, but this was my choice.
Okay.
All right.
Cote Rhone. Yeah.
And this bottle, like, you know, it must have been like 2005. When I was a freshman.
Back in the day. Yeah.
That was like the first bottle of wine that I had that I was like, I love this.
Nice.
And it was like $15. I was like, yeah.
All right.
So
the way to find yourself into an obsession, the way to fall in love with
right.
something, and you're like, I love this. I didn't expect to, but I do. Yeah.
I like it.
All right.
I like it.
Beautiful. And can you just list, just so, because this is an auditory podcast.
Yes.
Name the bottle in full if you can.
It's a Cote du Rhone. It's Guigal, Guigal.
Guigal,
yeah.
All right.
It's pretty recognizable. Like you can find it pretty much anywhere.
What year is that bottle?
This bottle, I literally just picked this up like right before because like, oh, I should show.
Okay.
It's 2022.
2022. All right. Beautiful.
And it's still like
all right.
under $20.
All right.
Yeah. Awesome.
And,
all right,
and
Dallas.
It holds up.
And it holds up.
That's
what matters.
Nice. That is what matters. All right. All right, D, follow that up.
So my route into pairing for this, I actually just went with the history of birding and bird watching. And there's a specific region in France which has a very long history of bird watching. They are known for their storks, but they also have one of the oldest preserves in the region. And speaking of this region, it is Alsace. And
Alsace.
I prefer Alsace.
I know,
but I've been saying it since
no
day
one,
one, and no
one who lives there is going to agree with you.
Well, we can argue. I don't care. But it's as I said, they're very much known for their storks, and I think there was one image of a stork in this film. And it was like in Act 2 at some point. But I went with this Pinot Noir. It is, Dave, I want to say this is one you and I have had again because we've had a lot of wine together. Dear God.
Probably.
Dear God. But I went with the...
Have you had this wine? Probably. it's kind of my answer at this point.
I went with 2017 FE Trimbach. It's a Pinot Noir Reserve. It is, again, Alsatian or Alsatian, depends on how annoying you are. It is lovely.
Actually, it is Alsatian.
Exactly.
Which is,
exactly. But I'm sure there's
so
someone
if
who
you
says
could
Alsatian.
Just grammatically, always work it into Alsatian, and you can say it that way all you want. And there you go. Yeah.
We get so much more engagement when we pronounce things incorrectly.
When we argue, it's true.
Lots of cherry, lots of cranberry, lots of some spice. There's some subtle like smoke. It is fairly smooth to me, velvety, I guess. And this film is just so smooth. It's just so expertly executed. I don't know if it's just accidental. It just lends itself to just a natural kind of arc. Every character in the film even has its own sort of natural arc. And I
mean, this is a movie that was made in post, right?
100%.
I mean, more than like they really went through. They had a year's worth of footage, and they had a lot to choose from.
Good job of of making it velvety smooth, much like this happy Trimbach Pinot Noir.
Trimbach,
2017.
Alsatian Pinot Noir. What year is that?
2017.
2017.
It
All right,
is, yeah.
Get a little age on it.
9 years. All right, Dave, bring us home.
All right. I will take us home. So for me, I would really wanted, this movie is all about chronicling as much as humanly possible, taking it all in, all the birds, right? As many birds as you can possibly get into one single year. So I was like, all right, I got to find a wine that is as many things as humanly possible in one single wine. No, it is. So there's such a thing in the wine world called a field blend.
Yeah.
And not just a field blend, but there's also a very traditional style of field blend in Portuguese wine called the pahl-YET. And that is Palhete. So pal, and then an H in Portuguese is always a Y sound. So, and then it's not a pahl-YET, it's just, you just pronounce it pahl-YET. And that means red grapes and white grapes. You pick an entire vineyard, everything. You pick the whole thing. You don't care what they are. You don't care how much of anything there is. You take it all, you crush it all together, you co-ferment it all together, and you make one wine. And it's usually 20 or more kinds of grapes. I have 2 pahl-YETs here that I represent here in Los Angeles. This kitty wine, the Nina, is 50% red, 50% white grapes, all crushed together and made into one single pahl-YET field blend. I also have their goat wine, the Chibu, which is 80% red, 20% white. So you can get a little bit more red, a little bit more tannin, a little bit more body and whatnot. And then this little Nina Kitty one, if you wanted a little more chillable, a little more like crushable and chuggable and just light and bodied. But these guys this is the kind of wine. These guys are on the West Coast, the Nina and the Chibu Planet Mouraz, Mouraz. These guys are also low sulfite natural wines, but the Portuguese have discovered a new way to preserve wine without sulfites, which is using the chestnut flower tannin, the tannins of the flower of the chestnut tree. And you can use that to preserve wine instead of using sulfites. So it doesn't taste funky like a natural wine. It actually does preserve, but you use something instead of sulfites. So if you're sensitive to sulfites or think you are, you can do these Planet Mouraz wines, and they are amazing. So a pahl-YET wine, it's just going to be everything in the kitchen sink in one single wine. That word pahl-YET, just Google that, see if you can find some near you, see if you can find some on Wine Searcher or wine.com or I'll have some links down below where you can do a Google search that will do location based. So wherever you are located, see if you can find some. If you can't find a pahl-YET, just do a field blend of some kind, which will still be a field blend, will be all red or all white, but it will still be a mixed match and mosh of all these different grapes from one single vineyard that they're all going to put together and do a single wine. It's usually on the concept of what grows together goes together. And just the fact that it's all in the same area, it's like, this is all going to work. And the Portuguese have been making wine like this for thousands of years. They've been growing all the grapes together. Until recent history, they did not even know what they were growing. They never bothered to find out, because this is how they made wine. So they only DNA tested in very recent history and finally figured out what the hell all these grapes were. So that is what I think goes with listers. As you're going through all these different birds, have a wine that just represents that whole variety, all the varieties of the world and how they come together into a single bottle. That's going to be my blend. You can do something if you want to see what got Avi into wine in the first place,
That's
just
right.
like you're going to see what got Owen and Quentin into bird watching in the first place. Go for that Guigal. I'm going to have to look up that. I know which name that is. I got to look it up to know how to pronounce it right. But that one, the 2022 Cote de Rhone, or Dallas's Alsatian or Alsacian.
Alsacian is the obnoxious, incorrect way to say it.
2017 Pinot Noir from Trimbach. Those are our pairings for listers and guys. It's free on YouTube. I'll have a link down below to the documentary that will take you there directly. Also, don't forget our petition to get it on Letterboxd.
Yes,
that's right.
We will have that link down below in the description of this episode as well. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Avi. As a grand finale, one more time, where can people find you online?
Thebigbreakfilm.com is where I'll be promoting the film. We just started it, and I'm really only on Substack. You can just look up my name at Avi Setton.
At Avi Setton, or nandiuprising.substack.com if you want to. I'll have a link down below for that as well. So you can click to his profile, you can click to his website. I'll have all the links. It'll all be clickable and it'll be wonderful.
All right.
Thanks so much for
that
having
wraps
me,
us
guys.
up. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. And once again, before you go, dear listeners, do you love what we do here, Wine and Movie Pairings? Well, make sure to follow us and subscribe to this podcast. Also, leave us a rating and review because all these things make it easier for others to find out about us as well. No one's looking for a wine and movie pairing podcast. Let's be honest with each other. No one knows such a thing exists. But if you are listening to this, you probably have to admit it's pretty frippity frappity cool. So everyone who wants to find out about us should be able to find out about us. So please follow, rate, and review. We deeply appreciate it. Even better, and to endear yourself even more to our completely self-obsessed hearts, go follow us on Substack. Just go to vintertainmentstudios.com, where we will keep you all up to date on all our upcoming live in-person wine and movie events, like the one that happened yesterday, as we were discussing earlier, as well as bonus wine and entertainment pairings, collabs with other writers, filmmakers, and wine peeps. And if you ask nicely, we'll help you with your own wine and movie pairing. Just ask. We love doing this. We are super okay with doing it more.
And
many
I'm going
thanks
to take
to
this
our...
part, Dave. I've been wanting. I need a second chance at this because I screwed it up last time. Please, this is all back of the house stuff, Avi. Ignore it. And many thanks to our sponsor, Curated Wine Shop. No idea where to begin finding a wine that pairs with your movie? That's okay. Almost literally no one does. But Curated is here to help. They accept every Vintertainment-inspired challenge and will curate the selection to match your palate. Just tell them what you're trying to pair with, your budget, your preferences, and they will show you the way. Curated is a boutique wine shop on La Brea Avenue, Mid-City, Los Angeles, founded and operated by peeps currently and previously part of the entertainment ecosystem. Johnny, Kelly, Allison, and Mia, they're all fantastic. Trust me, they really are. Go meet them. You will not be disappointed. They carry an ever-changing, wide-ranging selection of small lot artisanal wines, from the known and comforting to the completely unique. Reds, whites, rosés, oranges, sparklings, dry wines, sweet wines, and everything in between. We mean it. Everything in between. So go check them out if you're in the LA area. Find them online at curated-wines.com. They do ship. That's curated-wines.com. And vintertainmentstudios.com for us, your Vintertainment bros. So thank you so much for listening, and we will be back in 1 week with another wine and entertainment pairing for your entertainment. Thanks, Avi, and ciao for now, guys.